Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to Goddess in Training. I'm Sarah, and today I'm sitting down with my dear friend Alecia, a brilliant strategist-turned-seeker who has spent the last 2 years living as a nomad and rebuilding life around intuition, community, and choice. In this conversation, Alecia shares how finishing a dual master's program led to an unexpected awakening, realizing that the conventional path didn't match their neurodivergent brain, values, or well-being. We talk about the courage it took to shed shoulds, downsize belongings, and follow the quiet instructions of their body, one train ticket, one couch, one conversation at a time. We get into the real stuff, asking for help when you've been fiercely independent, finding safety without a fixed address, the discomfort of not having your bed, and why chosen discomfort can be more liberating than the stress of staying stuck. Alecia also walks us through the practices that steadied them: meditation, tarot, gratitude, and a powerful season of solitude that rewired their relationship to anxiety, food, and daily life. If you've ever felt the pull to live closer to your values, or simply want proof that intuition can rearrange a life, this one's for you. Take a breath, listen with your own inner compass, and let's begin. Hi, welcome back to Goddess in Training. I'm Sarah, and today I am so excited to be joined by my dear friend, Alecia. Alecia and I have known each other for, I don't want to say how long, at least a decade. Gosh, there is so much we could talk about today, but let's start with what you've been doing recently. So for the past 2.5 years, Alecia has been a nomad, and I just find this so fascinating, and it's a journey that is full of intuition. It's like you're leaning completely into letting your intuition figure out where you're going to be living, like what state you're going to be in, or what country possibly you're going to be in. Tell everybody how you started on this nomad journey.
Well, thank you for having me, first off. It's been an interesting journey. I don't even know where to start other than I guess. So I did just hit my 2-year mark of being
Oh, 2 years.
nomadic,
Okay.
but the plans, of course, for all of that had to start much before then.
Right.
So 2.5 years probably feels right for all of the like solid planning that went into.
Was there a moment where it came to you? Was that like an intuitive moment where you were like,
Sort of. So I just finished my dual master's program, and in like 2022, maybe it was 21, I don't know. It all runs together because COVID and, time is
an illusion?
yes. But anyway, so I had finished the dual master's program, was too burnt out at that point to go looking for the capitalist job to go with it. I got my MBA and from Johns Hopkins of all places, and a MA in design leadership, which is about user research and design and overseeing design processes. And so like just finishing all of that and like just feeling like burnt out, overwhelmed, and like also realized like partway into my MBA program that like I am an anti-capitalist, an anti-capitalist getting an MBA. But like didn't know what to do like when I had that realization, and so I just like got it because I just figured like I'm already in, I guess, like a sunk cost fallacy if you MBA. Just just like this fallacy, like that, like it's a fallacy that they talk about in different programs. But in the MBA program specifically, we talked about it because it's like just because you've put in a bunch of stuff and like energy, time, money, effort, like whatever, like you continue to put in more and more and more, even though you maybe realize that like it's not going to bear fruit. And so it's this fallacy that we have that like we've already invested so much, so we're going to continue to invest in it. So
Yeah.
that's
I make
to
a face
use.
because that's how I'm feeling about my Costa Rica project right now.
So I kind of like, even though I was aware of that, like I still just like still did it.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, just like thinking, who knows what it'll bring, like,
Yeah.
and also just knowing like how systems work. I
Mhm.
love that. Like I love having all the tools of any trade. And I am an autistic human with my special interest is knowledge gaining. So I was already there. I was already, spent a bunch of money, and so I followed through. But anyway, all that to say is that MBA was not for me. Like going and getting a job with that was not for me. I realized, like, as I'm uncovering my autisticness, as I'm uncovering my ADHD-ness, and I only put it in air quotes in the sense that I feel like it's all just different brain types. So I use the labels to like talk about it, but I just understand that I'm a neurodivergent human, and we're all neurodivergent to an extent. Anyway, my brain type does not mesh well with capitalist systems and structures.
Sitting at a desk for 8
Yeah,
to 10 hours a day.
yeah. Like, so, uh, did not go and get another job, but kept the current job that I had, and which was just a retail BS job to survive and make money and support my 3
Mhm.
kids. And my now ex is military. And so he ended up having to go to Korea for a year. And so I had to, like, after we had separated, I came back for that year that he was gone to live with the kids. And like in the period of all of that, like I'm keeping this job to support myself, to support my kids, and just realizing how unhappy I was. I was also doing a lot of healing work. And so, yeah, like my unhappiness. And eventually I got fired in retaliation from that job. And when that happened, I was like, I don't know what to do because I don't want to go get another bullshit job. I don't want to go feed into this capitalistic hellscape of a system. I'm unhappy doing that. I started realizing I wanted to be my true authentic self and living that life.
Mm.
And I realized how much by not living that, I was causing anxiety and depression in myself.
Mhm.
It's just kind of this unraveling of sorts, which actually started when I was in undergrad. So,
Mm.
like, all of this started then. This deep unraveling as you pull this thread. And like around the time that I decided to go nomadic was like the time that I was getting close to like undoing the whole sweater. And so, like, after losing that job and I couldn't see myself doing anything else, I knew prior to that that I wanted to be nomadic, but my plans were different than the universe's plans.
Often.
Yeah. I wanted to wait till my kids got, like my youngest just graduated high school, this last year. Initially, like that was my plan. My grand plan was wait till they were out of school, then go nomadic.
Mm.
But my kids are no strangers to one of their parents being abroad or around with
Mhm.
their dad, and he was stable at the time. So I was able to make that decision to start my nomad journey early.
Mhm.
So yeah, so started it early.
So what does the prep look like as you're thinking about becoming a nomad? And are you making lists of like, well, I know people in each of these areas? I mean, you don't seem like a real list type person necessarily. Like, you do have a spreadsheet?
What's funny is I am a list and spreadsheet person.
You are really?
Yeah, but I didn't do that.
Okay.
In my MBA program, like the business analytic class was like my all-time favorite. And it
Really?
was like through spreadsheet, like it was, I
Oh.
like made a, oh God, like an algorithm using spreadsheet. It was so much fun. And I have so much fun with that. But no, I did not make a list. I mean, I sort of maybe did like mentally, but normally I am like a physical list
Okay.
person and I really didn't.
Okay.
But I was just mentally prepping myself, like, how do you make money? I knew I wanted to get rid of a bunch of stuff. My
Mhm.
oldest was moving into his first place, so I was able to offload some of my stuff and have it be useful to him. It was a ridiculous time for me, that's for sure, because like not only was I prepping for my nomad journey, but I was prepping him for his first home.
Mm.
And then also moving 2 kids in with their dad. And so it was like some stuff's going there, some stuff's going there, some stuff's going into my storage unit, and the rest we're getting rid of. And so
Mhm.
we all moved out of the place all at once to all different places. Kept stuff in a storage unit. I didn't want it to be a lot. So I downsized quite a bit. And even then, I'm now getting rid of my storage unit like completely because I don't want to have that burden. So I planned very well in some ways and not well in other ways. But like most of it was like logistical, getting rid of cars. I didn't want to have any payments because I knew that if I was
Mm.
nomadic, if I like having bills meant that like I needed to work more.
Right.
And like part of my nomad journey was not having to work, or if I did have to work, it was in community with people. So like odd jobs with people wherever I was staying, learning to communicate in ways of like bartering, exchanging of
Mm.
goods, and also just like anti-capitalist mindset. Like this is who I am, and not everyone else is that way, right? And so like there's still some exchange of goods or services or money, or but I like having those conversations with people like
Mm.
about what it looks like to opt out of capitalist systems, and including exchange of goods and services. I don't want it to just be a one for one exchange.
Right.
Now there has been a lot of that, but like there's also been a lot of just existing in community with each other, and like in that way I'm being taken care of, and in that way I'm able to take care of others.
Mm.
So
It's beautiful. So, what has surprised you most about this nomad journey?
yeah, feel like what I thought would be surprises weren't really,
Mm.
and what I didn't know would be surprises were.
Okay.
So you asked me how I prepped. My prep was like line up places where I know the people and I feel safe and secure.
Hmm.
And the first stop was actually back to Nebraska to hang out with my youngest sibling. I'm the oldest of 7, which is quite a bit. And so my youngest sibling was struggling a lot with mental health, and so I wanted to help them out, stay with them, help stabilize them. And so that was like the first stop on my journey, was to just help them. And that was like a month and a half of doing that. And it was also this like kind of back to my roots. And it ended up revealing, this was one of the surprising things, was revealing to me that now that I was like, I had done so much healing work and was back in my body, how hard it was to be around my family,
Mm.
because my upbringing was very challenging and I had a lot of trauma as a result. And so being around that atmosphere, like for the first time being connected to my body, I realized I wasn't really ready. And I thought like at that point I would never return there again.
Signals were very strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I ended up in Colorado Springs with a really good friend of mine, which was planned. I had this like soft takeoff. Like I thought it
Mm.
was like safer for me to like go in this way. And um and then everything broke down. Again, surprising. This friend is, over 14 years, and we were like thick as thieves. And without going into like the full story,
Yeah.
ended up like being stranded at this person's house and having to call upon my existing community to
Hmm.
help me out, which is really, really hard for me. I've been a radically independent person most of my life. And for me, asking for help puts me in a very vulnerable position. And in the past, I've been hurt in that way, and not being able to rely on my parents for help or support. And
Hmm.
like, I just haven't really had that community. And like, through my healing journey, I was developing this intentional community, and the universe was providing an opportunity, and not just an opportunity. I was forced. Like, the universe was like, you are absolutely going to learn this lesson. And so I had to reach out to my community and ask for money, which I hate doing, and ask for a ride out of Colorado Springs.
Mm.
And so out of all of that, I ended up with some of the most amazing
Huh.
relationships. And once I ended up safely out of Colorado Springs and in Denver with a friend who I hadn't been in contact with in over 20 something years. And I've known her since she was born. We grew up as neighbors across the street from each
Oh,
other in
wow.
Sioux City, Iowa. And through that reconnection, I realized that we had been living parallel lives.
Wow.
And we just like really connected. And I was only planning on staying with her for like a week to get out of like this emergency situation. And like I've ended up like, it's one of my hubs. It's one of the places I now call home. And also the person who came and picked me up from Colorado Springs and took me to Denver. We've become the best of friends, and
Oh.
it's one of the most amazing connections. And so everything that came out of one of the hardest challenges at the very beginning, where I thought like, this is the easy part, right? Like the
Mm.
hard part is when I did the unknowns later. And no, it was like the knowns that became
More
unstable
challenging.
and more, yeah,
Yeah.
super challenging.
Wow.
And it became the unknowns that actually were the safer places to be. And the universe knew exactly where I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be in Denver. And as soon as I got there, I knew it. Like I felt it.
Mm.
Yeah, the rest is like history as far as that's concerned. I learned very early on that lesson of like the universe is going to provide for you
Hmm.
if you just let it. Like whatever plans you make, like they can be loose, but ultimately, like following what the
Hmm.
universe has for me
Hmm.
has been like my safer place. Yeah.
Yeah, you talked a lot about safety and the resistance to asking for help. And it seems like you intentionally put yourself on a path where you were forced to ask for help and where safety is like very tenuous,
Yeah,
right? So now, 2 years later, what's your relationship with asking for help and a feeling of safety?
it's still a struggle.
Yeah,
Asking for help is like amongst all of my friends, it's one of the things we all have the hardest thing doing, and we can all give the advice to the other person to
really.
like, like ask me, like, I want to help, we want to help. And
Yeah.
like we all know it, but it's like it's still one of the hardest things for people to do. But my guides provide me opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. The
Mm.
universe is providing it. And every single time I see it, as soon as it comes up, I'm like, I know. And there are times where one of my good friends that I was gonna stay with, I was gonna house sit,
Mhm.
asked me or when she asked me to house sit, she was gonna pick me up from the metro in
Mhm.
DC. And I get to the metro and I had texted her to let her know I was like gonna be there, and she doesn't respond.
Mm.
And I know I could pick up the phone and
Mhm.
just call her and be like, hey, I'm here, come pick me up.
Yeah.
But the radical self-reliant person in me is like, she's obviously busy. You can walk. Like, and so I walked like the mile, and I inconvenienced myself because I didn't want to inconvenience her.
Mhm.
And it's the smallest thing. And I knew when all I needed to do was make the phone call. I knew the universe was providing the opportunity, and I was being stubborn. And it was the
Yes.
smallest one, right? Like one that she had already offered for a ride. And
Mhm.
and this is post all of this lesson, like,
Wow, so
right?
you're still
Like,
learning it.
I'm still learning it. Absolutely. It's going to be one of the longest lessons, I feel.
Yeah, I've also struggled with that. And as a career fundraiser, though, what I've learned in that role of like, was my job to ask people for money and ask for help, is that it's a real gift. Like you're giving somebody the gift of feeling good because we feel good when we give to other people. People aren't likely to do something for whatever reason unless they're asked. And same with fundraising. You sit down with somebody, you know that they have the money, you know that they love your cause. If you don't ask them, they're not going to give the money. And it's the same way with any kind of help, unless there's some situation like a death in the family. I think like there's certain
Yeah.
societal places where people then are like, okay, this is a time when it's socially acceptable. I don't know why people don't just openly offer their help freely, but we don't for whatever
Yeah.
reason. And
I
like
think
there
it's
has to be that,
socialized
yeah,
in us, first of all, like in those circumstances, right?
yeah.
Grief of hardship, like that's when we show up
Mm-hmm.
and ask. But also so many of us are in survival mode. So it's really
Mm,
hard
yeah,
to pay attention to our own needs, let alone someone else's needs.
right.
And so like until we can start establishing those connections with each other, like then yeah, like it's hard for me. And also like that adds to like if you were to just tell me what you need,
Mm-hmm.
like then I am able to like I have a small like the amount of energy it takes to provide whatever that needs
Yeah,
ask is, versus if I'm also trying to pay attention to all of my friends and all of their needs. Now
that's
I'm
true.
managing Sarah might need help right now.
Right.
And when you have all of these close communities, so like I think it's actually really helpful for each of us to just ask for things that we need, because then our
Mm-hmm.
friends don't have to guess
Yeah.
at like what it is.
Yeah.
And I often like think like what you were talking about before is that like if I'm not asking and if I'm not like providing the opportunity for my friend to show up in that way, I am also taking away
Yeah.
something from them.
People love to help
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
people. And it does feel like a gift and an opportunity for me to be asked to give my help. But we forget that.
I know.
I know.
I know.
I know. It's so simple, but, I guess it's just, yeah, like that fierce independence that
Yeah.
we feel like we need to exist with.
One of the
Yeah.
things that I've started to do
Yeah.
with myself is like I check in with my values. I'm like, Alicia, remember your values. You values are reciprocity and community. And if you're only ever giving, you're not participating in your values. You have to receive, you need to ask for help. You need to be a part of community is to be in those positions of creating that space with each other. So when I catch myself doing those things, I remind myself I'm not living my values.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. When you're talking about being a nomad, it feels like so much of that time, as I'm imagining it, might be uncomfortable.
Understatement of the year.
Because like you're staying with people that you know at different levels.
Or don't know.
Yeah, or
I've stayed
don't
with
know.
strangers.
Yeah. And then, yeah. And then, you don't have the comforts of home. Like
I don't have a bed.
you've stripped
My
yourself.
bed is gone.
Yeah, you've stripped yourself of basically every comfort that that we have. You don't have your animals. You don't have your family. You have so little that is yours. How does that feel? How does it
Surreal.
feel to be so uncomfortable so often?
It's a discomfort I choose.
Right.
And that helps a lot because when I was living the capitalist life, living within the systems that exist, that was also really stressful and uncomfortable and hard. And I was anxious and depressed and suicidal like most of my life. I didn't choose that stress. Also because I was like very inauthentic to myself and my values. So like this, I get to live in my values. I get to be my authentic self. And so yes, it's a stress and yes, it's a discomfort and it gets super challenging at times. But it's like so much easier than what I used to live. So much easier. Not having my own bed to go home to, like there's no home. I talk about home bases. I do have home bases and that's where my community is. DC, I have a community of people. Denver, I have a community of people. And out in Washington State, I'm starting to rebuild, I should say, my community of people there. I lived out there for 3 years in Tacoma. Washington. But like having those hubs in like those 3 places is great because it's like West Coast, East Coast, and Central. This is part of like that discomfort of the unknown is like, I do know that I'm going to be taken care of because I do know that if like something falls through, I have multiple places to stay and all I have to do is get to that. I feel way more comfortable doing what I'm doing. Even with all the discomforts that come with it of like not having your things. And I'm learning to shed the things that don't matter. And don't get me wrong, like I started with a lot and like for the people who set me off, my partner and my kids and my ex all helped get me on the first train out of DC area. And I had so much luggage. I had like 2 giant rolling suitcases, several bags, the hiking backpacks. I had one on front, one on back. I had bags on top of the suitcases. Like, I don't know how I did that. Like, I honestly don't. But part of that was like a learning to let go because that baggage really did become baggage.
Right.
And I'm like, and I ended up realizing what I love. I have my costumes, all of my beauties, but like from day to day, I have like my autistic comfort uniform and it's like a pair of pants and this like sweater that you'll see me in all the time. And that's what I wear like most of the time. So I learned to like let go of a bunch of the stuff. And don't get me wrong, I still have stuff, but you learn like what is important to you when you really don't want to have to carry it around all the time.
How has the discomfort affected your healing journey?
It's helped me have a different relationship to pain, to discomfort, to suffering. I'm still struggling with it all, but being back in my body before, like I was very disconnected from my body because pain was so uncomfortable that like, and I needed coping mechanisms to like get away. And over time, like over the, 40 years of my life, I disconnected myself from my body. And then like, again, anxiety and depression. And I have this theory with anxiety and depression that when we don't allow ourselves to feel, when we, like we push it all down, when we like disconnect ourselves from it, anxiety is your body screaming that something's wrong because you're not able to pay it. Like you no longer have feelings of like anger or scared or any of these things, like none of these feelings that you're paying attention to. And when you're not paying attention to those things, and your body's like, I'm just like
screaming at you.
Screaming at you. Yeah. And I had panic attacks my whole life. And I struggle with so much anxiety and depression, and sometimes it just like would loop through the two. And same thing with depression. Like when you cut yourself off from all the hard emotions, you're also unable to experience the
Yeah.
easy emotions, the emotions that bring you joy, pleasure, like all of these things. And so you've narrowed your ability to feel. So coming back into my body, like facing things that are uncomfortable prior to the nomad journey, had done a bunch of healing work. I read a book on CPTSD, understanding the effects on the body. That's when I started coming back into my body, recognizing that like I am a strong and capable person. And so when I'm put in these situations, that I can like handle that pain and not to choose the suffering part of the pain. So like I think often we can choose to sit in suffering when we're faced with the pain. But I'm learning to not sit in suffering, to use what I call are my roots, my foundation. That's my tarot and oracle practice, my friends, meditation, my gratitude practice. Like I have all of these strong roots and foundations to lean into when I'm facing pain, when I'm facing discomfort, when I'm facing challenges, because I know that I am strong enough to actually feel that now, to actually face it. And that I have support and resources in order to do those things. Now, I'm not perfect with it. Like, I still struggle like hardcore with it. And like 2 years ago, when I started my nomad journey, even though I was off of anti-anxiety meds and depression meds, I still had situational anxiety meds. I got on the train and I had a panic attack because it's like this huge thing that I'm doing.
Surrender.
Yeah.
With so much faith.
Now, like, I can manage those feelings as they come up. And I've also recognized that like sometimes what I feel is fear feels so much like the panic that I used to feel, that I'm like, I have to remind myself it's not panic. It's actually just like the being scared or fearful for something. And then I like think through like all the places I've been, all the things I've overcome, and that like I'm able to like work through like that in a rational way, using, my support network and my tools. I have like a book of remembering that I made for myself, which is like really helpful when you are like experiencing fight or flight or freeze fawn responses, so like 4F responses, or you're feeling out of body, to help bring yourself back in and grounded. So I have this like manual that I made for myself. If you're in hypo or hyper arousal, like which one, different activities that you can do to help bring yourself back into like being grounded. It's specific to me because I understand myself. And so like, what are my values is part of that book of remembering. What am I grateful for? Who's my support network? Have you pulled some cards yet? Have you been in touch with your guides? I just know that like if I'm in this hyper arousal or hypo arousal, that I am able to grab this book and help myself through that moment and to get to the other side. And I'm not always perfect about it again. Like it's a practice. It's a journey.
It sounds like an amazing tool though.
It's been super helpful.
So you've mentioned your spirit guides, and have there been times when you feel like, you had a plan to go to one place and your guides were like, nope. And you have to like, and then you decide to listen and change course? Or conversely, are there times when you haven't listened to that inner voice, to your spirit guides, the universe, and things have then gone wrong?
So 2 years ago, when I started my nomad journey, was the moment where I had my own plans and the universe decided otherwise.
Right.
Since then, I would say my practice is pretty intentional. I'm not saying I don't make wrong choices. I absolutely do. But like, I feel like I'm able to correct myself pretty quickly. I'm learning to understand my own intuition. It's a struggle that I've had for a long time because I was so disconnected from my body. I will say that like often, like if I pull a card and I have like I feel the resistance within, 2 years ago, if I had that happen, like you kind of ignore it, right? Or you're like, that doesn't feel right, or that doesn't, like whatever resistance that you have that comes up, like as soon as you pull that card and you're faced with it, I would get that card over and over and over again, or similar cards until like.
I hate it when that happens. You're like, no, I don't want that card again.
I don't want to face this. Like I really don't. And just in that moment with my friend at the metro, like I knew it was happening. I saw it and I still chose. Like, so it's been in smaller moments. As far as everything else, I speak into existence. Like, so like I'll get cards about solitude and I spoke into existence. I need solitude. Like I need a place. And I can't remember where I was located at the time. I was often like back and forth between Denver and DC area. But like I also spent time in Santa Fe and a few other places. But at this moment in time, I was probably somewhere between Denver and DC. And I know I need solitude. I'm pulling cards of like, hermit cards, solitude cards. I know I need this time, and it's getting to be winter, which I hate winter. And I don't know that I've ever been in solitude up until this point where like I realized that's what I needed.
And you must be around people all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And so solitude feels very hard to get.
You don't have your own room.
In a nomadic journey.
Yeah, you don't have your own house. Yeah.
And as I'm like speaking it out loud to people that this is what I want, I knew I wanted to go out west to see old friends in Tacoma, Washington. And I had reached out to a few different people, and I was hitting like almost a wall. Like all of my past friends, people that I had been in touch with, weren't able to host me at that time. And so I just put a thing out on Facebook like, hey, like I really want to come to the area. And a really good friend from undergrad there, which we were really good friends on campus, but we never hung out really outside of campus. And so we did a lot of volunteer work that overlapped on campus. She was like, I have a spare room. You're like more than welcome to come for a few days. I know because we hadn't been friends outside of like campus that it was a trial, thing.
Right.
And part of me was like, should I just cancel? Because this is only going to be like a trip for like 4 or 5 days. That's the most that she can host me because like, we don't know each other. But then something inside of me, intuition, right? That was like telling me, no, like you should go. Just like, it's okay. Just go for 4 or 5 days. You have the ability to do that. And so I did it. And of course, we hit it off. We had an amazing time. And she was like, oh my God, yes, you're more than welcome to come back out here. I ended up doing some work for her in her yard. She's doing it in this amazing way to become a rain garden. And anyway, it was a lovely time. But while I was there for that 4 or 5 days, there just so happened to be a happy hour from like our school, like where we both graduated. I showed up to it, and it's like alumni, current students, future potential students, like all intermingling. And I run into another person that my nonprofit work had overlapped with his work. And so we reconnected. And as we're reconnecting at this happy hour, he was like, oh my God, I have this like little bungalow that's sitting empty. Why don't you come stay? And I was like,
there's the solitude.
There's the solitude. And I did.
Yeah.
And that solitude was pivotal. I was there for part of this November, December, and January. So part of November and then just all of December and like almost all of January. And life-changing. The amount of healing I did in those 2.5 months in solitude far outreaches any healing I had done previous. I talk about the anxiety, the depression, and all of that. Like I've been like, the anxiety has affected me in such a way that I couldn't eat my first meal until like 3 or 4 p.m. I started meditating while I was there. That was one of my goals. Something I didn't think I could ever do because I have a million voices that were always up in my head. Through a bunch of work that I had done prior to, laid the groundwork to be able to do like actual guided meditation. And then I did self-meditation as well in that like 2.5 months. And January 11th, a rebirth awakening moment in meditation where it was like over 4 hours of meditation. I was specifically working with healing energies. I had had a rock bottom moment like a couple of years before where I was drinking heavily to cope with like all of the things. It was while I was getting my dual masters and I'm taking care of kids, and like it was just like life was chaotic, and I had all the coffee to like get through my day and all the booze to like go to sleep at night, and it got me through. But I did hit a rock bottom where like I was like, that's not sustainable, and that kind of started me back on my own healing journey. But all of that to say is that like when I was doing this energy work, I was like specifically focused on liver, kidneys, digestive system, like all of the stuff with the energy. And after that over 4 hour meditation, which felt like minutes,
Wow.
I came out of that a completely different person. 40 years of not being able to eat until like 3, 4 p.m. And I instantly wanted food the next morning for breakfast. I was not nauseous. I was not like, I was starving and my body only wanted like healthy foods. Like it was like, no, we don't want any of that stuff. Throw it all away. Let's go grocery shopping. And like my body was like, this is what we need. This is what we want. I could no longer smoke marijuana or ingest marijuana in any form since that meditation, which I used it for sleep. I used it for pain. I don't need to. Yeah, I had like within like a week to 10 days after that meditation, I had this purge. I got like deathly sick for like 4 or 5 days. And I could tell it was just my body releasing all of the toxins.
Wow.
Like, and since then, my allergies have been almost non-existent. I normally get pretty bad in the spring and the fall, like 2 bouts of like really bad allergy attacks. I haven't had that since. My ability to navigate pain, to navigate hard things coming out of that has been so different because like I've been able to focus on gratitude, on the things that I have. And don't get me wrong, like the wiring is hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's a struggle, but now I have all these tools, and like all of those tools came out of that 2.5 months of solitude, and all because I spoke it into existence. That's been my nomad journey. I say what I need out loud and it comes. May not be in the way that I thought, but I just, I say it out loud and I follow. It feels weird because I have almost like that imposter syndrome with intuition. Like I'm like, oh, you're not really intuitive. Oh, but then when I really think about all the ways that I have been like intuitive, I'm like, no, like you absolutely are. Look at the last 2 years of your journey. You've been able to follow your body way of knowing, right? And part of it is because I was so disconnected from my body and I intellectualized everything. Sometimes I have to like really quiet the mind, and that meditation has been really, really helpful in that practice and like being able to connect to like the other ways of knowing, to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I didn't think I was intuitive, and I actually put myself down because I wasn't a planner. Like I told my mentor, my ex-Buddhist monk mentor, Hartanto, like was a person who knew what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I just kind of fell into everything and saying it in a way that there's something wrong with me. And he was like, no, Sarah, you were listening to your intuition and you were exactly where you were supposed to be in every moment.
Yeah. Even in those times, yeah, because like the same thing, like I kept having people tell me like this is the path you're supposed to take, and I did listen to an extent to others, but there was so many times I found myself resistant to like going to college right away out of high school. Like I was like I visited all these places, and my parents were so frustrated with me, like pick a college, it's either that or go work, and I was like none of that. I was rebellious.
Yeah,
So,
doing your path already.
yeah, it was. And of course I ended up following some of it that wasn't my path.
As we do.
Yeah, right. But like I had that clearly, like that intuition and that knowing, like, from a very small age.
Wow. And so what's coming up for you? We've been having a lot of conversations about how the world around us is changing and how reality is changing and the systems around us are going to be changing even more profoundly. And what are your thoughts on how to take this knowledge that you've learned through this really unusual journey? I'm sure people are like, what? You're a nomad? Like, how do people, first, before we get into like the future stuff, how do people respond to you when you say,
most people say like, oh, that's so cool, I wish I could do that. And I'm like, first of all, you could. I feel like any of us can. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Like we all have kids, we all have responsibilities, but like we all make choices. I've also seen families with kids and tiny houses that are movable. There's a million different ways to do things. We are our own creators. But yeah, mostly it's like in awe, and like people are like, I wish I could. And
something we don't even really consider as an option for ourselves.
I mean, the structures in place make it really, really hard to do that. Like in its own nature, like there's a lot of laws and there's a lot of stuff like surrounding like sleeping in your cars, or like all of the stuff that's like very anti houseless people. Even just like filing your taxes, being attached to an address, like any kinds of benefits, they want that mailing address, and it often can't be a PO box. I use friends' addresses all the time because like that's the only way I can function in many ways, is to have that kind of mailing address. But
What about voting?
I mean, same kind of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. Right.
I am pretty anti-establishment,
Yeah.
so voting for me is not anything that I am interested in doing anymore because I find that it keeps us complacent. I forget which university it was, but one or two different universities, I want to say Columbia was one of them, but don't quote me on that, came out with an actual study that was like voting doesn't do shit. Again, part of this nomad journey and kind of getting to your second question, what now? Everything that I've been doing is to opt out of the establishment as much as possible. So not having rent, not having a house, not having a car, not having, car insurance, getting rid of as many systems and structures that used to like have such a hold on me, which that was part of my prep work, right? The logistical prep work. And so getting rid of as much as you can. Even right now, I've paid for a storage unit for 2 years. That's how much money, to keep belongings that like I rarely see. And don't get me wrong, like I have some of my precious things, but now I'm finding homes for them within my community. I think that too is like giving ourselves to like not do everything perfectly right away. Like I knew I didn't want a storage unit, but like that didn't happen right away. Or like when I took off with all the bags and all the things, like I knew I didn't need all that, but like, I didn't want to strip myself of everything and be put in shock either.
Right, exactly.
Like, and so it was like, I knew when I took off with that much baggage that it would be baggage, but it was like teaching myself my own lesson. Like, and I knew that's what I was doing, like from the get-go, and that's okay.
Well, and just the symbology behind shedding as you're traveling throughout the entire country and leaving things behind in every place.
But yeah, like the healing, the staying with people, like to not have all of these responsibilities that I used to have means that I don't have to work as much to sustain like this lifestyle. So like I was living off of less than $600 a month. And in like a good chunk of that 2 years. So it was just working enough to like get to the next place, to buy food, to maybe chip in some gas, but like the bare necessities. But again, all of this is so that like if I had to work a full-time job, I wouldn't be able to spend time with people.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to have the relationships that I have with the people that I have now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have community. And I think that all the time with all of the structures that do exist, and like we're all again in survival mode. And I think it's that way on purpose. If we're all in survival mode, then none of us have capacity to build community, to see things differently, to envision things in a different way.
Yeah.
Because we're so bombarded with the everyday struggle, the everyday life. And me being who I am in the last 2 years has been able to like show people that things can be done differently. Also, it helps like with capacity building in them. Like, so like when I stay with them, I'm able to help with kids and cleaning and organizing and whatever tasks that need done. And when I'm able to do that, then they have just a little bit more capacity in their life. And so like, not only are we having time together, like that we wouldn't have otherwise, but then like, they're able to free up some capacity in their life to maybe do something that they wouldn't have been able to do before. Like, I really see changing our future as like lots of little acts of creating the capacity in each other's lives to be able to show up more, to be able to build more community with each other. Some people can do it big like I do it, like the complete shedding of all the things. But even if you can't do that or you don't think you can do that, what ways can you participate? Can you start a dinner group among friends where if you have like 5 or 7 friends, right, that all live in close proximity to another, like let's say I made dinner for everyone one night, you made dinner for everyone another night, and we just exchanged. And that means like I'm only cooking dinner for a bunch of people one night, and you're doing and then like because like that's so much effort and time and energy, and we're exhausted already. So like how can we think creatively to support each other to like start building that capacity in our lives to like do more, to make changes?
Yeah.
I want to see more of that. Also, help hold each other accountable to opting out of things like shopping at Amazon or Starbucks, or I weaned myself off. You don't have to do everything perfectly like in one night, right? In the last 2 years, I'm off of all socials now. My energy, that is worth something, right? Like my focus, where focus goes, energy flows. If you're focused on your Facebook feed, your Instagram feed, on all of that, like I don't want to give them that anymore. Like they don't get that from me. money. In 2 years, it took me a while, but I weaned myself off and I got off of all socials. I quit spending money on Amazon. I quit spending money at Starbucks. Like I shop at international markets. I small vendors if I do need something. But again, it's not an overnight thing. And I think a lot of us think like, oh, well, I couldn't do that. Like you can, just slowly. Like that's where I do plan. Actually, there's the book Polywise by Jessica Fern, which is an amazing read for so many reasons. But one of the things that I love that she highlights in there is by paradigm shifting. So here's my current paradigm. Here's the paradigm I want to live in, and listing all the steps on how to get there.
Interesting.
And so like, let's think about the paradigm we want to live in and like how to get ourselves there. One step at a time, $1 at a time, like hour of your day at a time. What can I shift in my life right now in order to like make some of these changes to live the life I want to lead? Like I know I was exhausted of living the life they all wanted me to lead, plugged into the system. Planning was like, how do you start shedding little bits? Like, how do you get rid of, like pull yourself out of some of those systems so that you don't feel so plugged into them and so beholden to them. I mean, I want to build utopias. Let's do something different. Let's create the society that we want to live in. Like, we don't have to be beholden to them. We are the people with all the talent, all the energy, all of the amazingness, coming together in community. If we start building that capacity, if we start building different structures, I might not see it in my lifetime, but that's okay. Like, I want us to like enjoy our lives.
Yes. Right. I know. We spend such a limited period of time on this planet in these bodies.
Yeah.
And so much of it is just fraught with fear and anxiety and sadness. And it doesn't have to.
No,
it
does not have to be. Having these conversations, sitting down and getting to talk with each other. We had the lunch date earlier with 8 beautiful femme people, and just building that energy off of each other and like coming together as much as you can and making different choices. Like,
Exactly.
rest is resistance, healing is resistance, color is resistance. Be colorful, be vibrant, being authentic is like there's so many ways to be resistant. There's going to be things that feel like uncomfortable, right? Not shopping on Amazon or like not doing these things, but like you can replace it with other things that bring you joy.
Right.
Whether it's, I love nature, like, so I love getting out in nature more, but like, even if it's just like hanging out and going dancing with your friends, like whatever it is that brings you joy, instead of spending, maybe $100 on, stuff that's gonna just sit. Like I love books, love them so much, but when I go to like all these different places, I see all these books on the shelf and I'm like, you never get to read any of them, do you? And it's so sad because you get to buy all of them. You have the money to buy them all, but you don't have the time to read them all.
Exactly.
Like read a book. It's like, let's create capacity so that we can read the books on our shelves.
Yeah, and so much energy. It's all about energy expenditure. And one little micro example that came up in the car, it was cleaning cobwebs off of my house and realized that they looked very similar to the cobwebs that people go and buy at the store with their money and then spread. And that somebody probably in China has sat and somehow created this fake cobweb for us to be able to then brush the real cobwebs off and put fake cobwebs onto our houses. And it's like, why?
And then birds get trapped in that and like right? And so you let nature be beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I think about that with lawns all the time. My undergrad is sustainable urban development, and like, when I recognize every town has what you can and cannot do with your own yard, you have to have green grass and mow it. Like, why can't I grow food? Places are getting better about some of it, but there's just so much that's like anti-support ourselves infrastructure to keep us in those systems.
Yeah, severity, right? Moving toward that.
Yep.
Alecia, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I feel like we just like scratched the surface.
Oh my God, we absolutely did.
We're going to have to do some follow-up episode on the what's next, because I think that you have such amazing ideas, and we're in this time where everyone's kind of feeling the heaviness of what's next.
What's next is huge. Like, it's definitely a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And how we can have power and like walk
Yes.
into what's next with power and
Yeah.
certainty and without fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a great pre-what's next episode because
Yeah.
it's the journey that kind of got me to where, like, what that is
Yeah.
and why I'm doing all the small steps, the changing of my life in as many ways as possible to prep for the new future and what's next.
Well, stay tuned and subscribe for a series with Alecia. There was resistance to do this podcast with me. And look, it was so amazing. You have so much wisdom to share, and your life is just walking with authenticity in a way that I think so many of us wish that we could. So thank you.
Thank you
so
for
much
having
love.
me. Thank you all.
Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Seshat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I've followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor de fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de rapé, soplo de luz, soplo encantado, viajecito, bendición del cielo, fortaleza, tigrecito de nacer.